Today's video is all about how I used AI to significantly increase my productivity when it comes to my med school finals. Now, regardless of what your views are on things like AI and ChatGPT, whether you think it's dangerous or whether you think it's the latest and greatest in technological advancements, there's no denying that you can use the services that it provides to your advantage, and that's exactly what I did, and I'm going to be sharing with you today exactly what I did in order to gain a benefit from things like ChatGPT. So one of the first things that I used artificial intelligence for was for answer explanations. So often, when it comes to past paper questions, sometimes there just is a letter for the answer, for the single best answer, and there's no explanation. So what I found really, really helpful in what I did was I copied and pasted the entire scenario as well as all the answer options, and I would ask ChatGPT, I would say, what is the answer? And it would give me an in-depth, detailed, almost consultant level explanation targeted specifically to the question scenario in hand. Now, another way that I used the answer explanation to my advantage was, for instance, again, in the single best answer options, which was a format of our exams. Often there would be some times, because it's called single best answer, that there is an answer option that could also be correct, but just isn't the best answer, okay? So sometimes I would find myself, having a look at the answer, and I would agree with the answer. I would say, okay, fine, I agree with what you're saying there. But also in the back of my mind, I'd also be thinking, but why isn't the other one right as well? Or why is this a better answer to the other option? And I can then follow up with, well, why not this? It would give me a really, really good in-depth answer of why this answer is correct and why the others aren't as good. And I found that incredibly, incredibly useful. The second way that you can use AI, and that I used AI, was to summarize large bodies of text and information. So in medicine, often than not, you get large bodies of text, whether you're reading a textbook, going through different sources, and you can use the ChatGPT to distill the information into the key salient points, and that is going to save you time in things like making notes, but also really understanding, what are the key concepts and what are the key points to take away from here, because there's a lot of content in medicine, so I found that incredibly useful. I also use AI to help me in terms of, again, distilling large bodies of text into something more visual to help me learn and memorize things. So one way that I used it was, for instance, using Notion AI. I asked it to summarize all the antibiotics in a table format. And what that allowed me to do was, again, convert large bodies of text into easy, digestible chunks that is easier to learn, memorize, and revise, and ultimately understand as well. Another great way that you can use ChatGPT is to increase your workflow when it comes to making flashcards. So making flashcards can be a very passive process and very time consuming. And again, you're not really gaining much benefit from making those flashcards in terms of it's not a very active process, so to speak. So one way that you can make the workflow a lot quicker is by getting your lecture slides or the pieces of information that you want to make flashcards on, your notes for instance, and asking ChatGPT to simply make questions from this body of text. And I find that really, really useful. Another thing that you could do is you could, for instance, go through your PowerPoint slides and make a load of questions from your PowerPoint slides from your lecture, and then use Notion AI or ChatGPT to essentially answer those questions. And then you've got your flashcards, you can just copy and paste those into Anki, for instance. Now, the issue I have with this approach and why I'm not so much of a fan is because you're relying on the Notion AI and ChatGPT to give you the answer explanation that you're learning. First of all, it's not a foolproof thing in terms of the fact that there may be inaccuracies, but also I would much rather learn the information that is given to me in the lecture, that is on the slides, that is said by the lecturer, because that is relevant to my exams, that is relevant to my course, and that is probably, the answer that they want in the exam if it comes up. So it's often, more high yield and more tailored and more specific if I use the information that is given to me in the formal way of the lecture, rather than using ChatGPT or AI to fill in the blanks. Obviously, it's a matter of preference. I personally am not too much of a fan because of that reason. The third way that I used AI was to help me with my practical skills and structuring certain answer explanations. So, for instance, examples where you could use this, or examples where I used this was, for instance, if I was trying to practice an S-bar handover, and S-bar is essentially a framework that we use as doctors in order to hand over patients' information safely to another person, i.e. if we want to, we're finishing a shift and we want to inform the next team about a patient, or we want to discuss a patient with another team, or go to our senior, we would use that framework, the S-bar framework, to logically try and explain everything about the patient and the questions that we have. So I would use ChatGPT to help me practice the S-bar handovers. Another thing that I found really useful is you can use ChatGPT to essentially structure your histories. So for instance, if you were clerking a patient on the wards, you could ask ChatGPT to structure it in terms of the classical structure of your presenting complaint, history of presenting complaint, past medical history, family history, social history, drug histories, medications, social history, your allergies, your ice, your management, and things like that. It can help you really restructure your answers, which is really invaluable in things like OSCEs and presenting. So that's one really great way to utilize it. And for instance, if you're not in medical school yet and trying to get into medical school, use it to help you structure your interview questions. So that was a really, really great way of using it. Another great way that I used artificial intelligence was with my elective applications. So I found it really, really helpful in terms of helping me, clean up and tidy up the punctuation, the grammar, the way certain things would be written, and to make it sound more professional. The 80-20 rule. So what I'll do is I'll write it really, really quickly. It'll be very rough around the edges, and I'll use it to just shine it up on the edge. Another way that I found it really time-saving was if, for instance, I had a word count on an application to try help me condense it, write a little bit more succinctly. That can save a lot of time as well. And another really great way is it helped me brainstorm ideas, again, for elective applications, structuring essays, projects and things like that. You can help you with your brainstorming side of things. Obviously, a word of caution is to make sure that you don't just ask ChatGPT to do a task for you, to do your homework for you, or to write a whole application for you, because ultimately you will get found out. It's plagiarism and you're not benefiting yourself. So the key take-home message here is how you can use artificial intelligence to increase your everyday workflow and productivity. Use it to your advantage without detracting from your own learning. Drop a like and subscribe.